In the first leg of the Barça-Inter Milan semi-final match, Barcelona had 72% of the possession, taking 19 shots, 9 of them on target. And despite being more dominant on the stats sheet, this game, you guys, as you know, it ended in a 3-3 draw. We keep saying it really is anyone's game coming into this week.
A lot of the injury concerns, right? So number 3 is needed reinforcements. Both sides getting some needed reinforcements. Barcelona, Robert Lewandowski coming in. That is massive.
Whose injuries do you think hurt each team the most?
I think Barcelona. Barcelona, the 2 fullbacks, hurt them because how they play, Alex Balde on that left-hand side, him getting forward, giving the width, it allows Rafinha to come in and get his goals. And we've done breakdowns with it before. It's taken Rafinha's game to another level, having him more centrally playing in the pockets, and Jules Koundé has been the Iron Man. And number 2, Jules Koundé, the guy in front of him is Lamine, who is him. Lamine the dream, Lamine the man.
Period.
Oh, I like that.
Period.
No, everything you said about him, it was a joy to watch. It was one of those moments in football where you just have to stand still and take note of it because you're watching art, you're watching poetry in motion. And he was the difference between Barcelona losing that first leg and Barcelona still being in this tie going into the second leg. So how does Inter stop him? Because as Phil said, it's Lamine y 10 más. And number 1 for me, it's the 2 different styles of football. It's Hansi ball versus CALCIO. The low block that is representative of CALCIO, defending at its finest. Inter, there's been some cracks in the pavement. There were some cracks in the first leg. I mean, how do you stop Lamine Yamal when he's playing like that, though? But how do you manage against the heavy metal, high-octane football of Hansi ball? Whoever wins that battle tactically will go to the final.
You mentioned the needed reinforcements. I think Lewandowski brings a certain intangible to this team, which is order, organization, that sometimes they lose almost just from a leadership perspective, right? Barca needs to be locked in from the very beginning, from the press to that back line. They weren't locked in 37 seconds into the game yesterday. And there were moments against Dortmund where we say, what's this team doing? The press from the top is so uncoordinated and the back line is in shambles. Even this weekend against Valladolid, granted, it was a back line that had never played with each other before. I think they met each other and said, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you.
My name is Andreas Christensen. What's your name?
Exactly. So there's no room for error. There's 90 minutes where you got to get it right. There's not a full season where you can, right some wrongs. Okay, we can adjust here, there. No. You have one game to get it right, and you can't get it wrong if you're Barcelona. And all this stuff that we've talked about, the kids and how incredible this is. They're not in the final yet. They haven't won the Champions League yet. There's a team that's very well constructed and very well organized that they're facing today.
Sure, I want to take a look first at the lineup with Lautaro Martinez.
I mean, this is the lineup, right? This is, and Pavard in. I would imagine Pavard is going to be B-Sec, right?
Yeah.
There. I'm more concerned. I mean, you talked about Dumfries. I'm more concerned here, like you mentioned, on this side of the field, because Dumfries was a handful in the first leg for Gerard Martin, and I'm not too sure about Inigo. I don't know if they were expecting such an offensive concern on this side, Barcelona and Denzel Dumfries.
No, they really weren't. And Denzel Dumfries and Marcus Thuram, and we were previewing it, and I think someone asked me, who are the 2 players, or who's a player that no one's thinking about? And I was thinking of the athleticism that they represent. What Denzel Dumfries does, you remember the World Cup against the United States, that performance?
Yeah.
I thought this took that and made it mincemeat. His positioning higher up the field is almost like a winger, right? Staying on this line, Barcelona keeping a high line right here, and Marcus Thuram's ability to hold up the ball, it creates running lanes for midfielders like Nicola Barella. And is that Lautaro Martinez? Could we see him potentially start? I think he'll play some part in this. That's going to be a gamble with a thigh injury.
And then the other, Claudia, I just want to get in here really quickly because we talked about how strong Inter's right-hand side was. On the opposite side of the field, for Barcelona, on their right-hand side, you have Lamine Yamal, right? And I felt like Bastoni, Di Marco, offensively, they had pretty quiet games. I mean, obviously, you had to deal with Yamal, but you know who you also had to deal with? Jules Koundé, who's unavailable, and now it's Eric Garcia. How far up does Eric Garcia go? How much does he offer on the offensive side of things? I don't know. That's the big question. Can he really pin those guys back? And is it going to be Di Marco? Is it going to be Augusto? We don't know who it is, but there's a responsibility on that right-hand side for somebody to join Lamine Yamal, whoever it is, as the right back.
Let's take a look at how Inter would look without Lautaro Martinez, who did end up coming off in the first half of last week's first leg. So, without him, how do things shape up on the field?
Listen, I think Taremi is a much less mobile striker than Lautaro Martinez. Is Arnautović not healthy?
Simone Inzaghi.
Does he prefer Taremi over Arnautović?
He's had some dubious. He's been carrying a bit of a knock in the last month or so, right? But he's had some dubious calls. You think of Coppa Italia in the semifinals?
Yeah.
He should have started Arnautović, and he chose to play Taremi.
Arnautović has come in when he's come in.
He's gotten some goals.
He's not only you would think if you never saw Inter before, you say, okay, this guy's your starter, right?
Yeah.
Also, I don't think particularly these are the two mobile backups that you have, but they're going to have to be very precise in their partnership with Thuram, because Lautaro has that get in behind factor, or at least that he can roam and he can start off a play here. Like I don't envision, and watch Taremi do it against Barcelona. I don't envision Taremi starting a play here and then ending it here, in the sense of the mobility and the speed of the game. Lautaro obviously has that factor, and obviously he's clinical, right? That one-time finish that he's become so known for in Italy. So I wonder what he sees in Taremi over Arnautović, for example.
I would go Marko Arnautović. He started at the weekend, right, in their win that they had. The big difference that I see is you go like for like. And so Marcus Thuram, he's going to go and draw and really try and get one of these two occupied. And now a player like Marko Arnautović, he wants to play. He can play as a second striker. We've seen him play at the international level. He likes to drop into the pockets, pick up the ball, and play off those second balls. Some of the goals he scored arriving late, almost like Lauti would do. The quality is nowhere near Lauti. But if I'm going tactically against this back four that's never started together, Nico, against Araujo, who can get ball watching, and I didn't roll my R's on that one. How do you say it?
Araujo. No, you don't roll your R on that one. Araujo.
That's a player that they can get after.
And even Inter's manager, Simone Inzaghi, had to say this about Lamine Yamal after last week. He said, Yamal really impressed me. He's a once-in-50-years phenomenon. We had to put 3 players on him and keep an eye on him for the full 90 minutes. What makes him so different?
Yes, I mean, these are the post-game comments from right after that first leg. Even yesterday, he kept on talking about him in the pre-match press conference, and it's almost like we got to avoid him getting the ball, but in the modern game, really, that's impossible. You can't avoid Lamine Yamal doing his thing. So it's a matter of maybe just putting 3-4 players on him in a moment, but even when he scored that goal, he was surrounded by 5 players. He's willing to go into a crowded space and find clarity when it's the most obscure.
I think we're seeing genius at work, and genius going to another evolution. When you think of some of the goals he scored, what he did in that first leg, go back to the Euros. It was Germany.
Yeah.
Golazo out of nowhere. He's got such a quick release about him that I think people sometimes forget, because he can do it all. His decision-making in the final third, his awareness of where space is and how to exploit it. Just the change in pace where Henrik Mkhitaryan, he comes, if you're Lamine, and we got to get you bleached hair. Henrik Mkhitaryan comes at...
And 2 glasses.
And he goes like this. And just in the blink of an eye, drop of a shoulder, gone, like this. And then Di Marco taken out to lunch. So this is a kid that if you go and triple team him, you got to worry about the other guy on the other side of the field.
Right, for sure.
Rafinha, wide open. So it's a disaster of how to approach them tactically. But the guy that I think that you can't not afford to really take care of is not just him. But if you take Pedri out of the game, then maybe you can go and try to put numbers on his side.
What do you guys think that we're going to see today from this game? Phil said 3-1 Barcelona, which got a gasp out of us. How do you guys think this one plays out? Nico?
I think Barcelona is going to get it done 2-1 or 3-2. It'll be high scoring.
Plus 104, I'll put my money on Inter today. That low block, how they figured out how to beat that press, but not having your first choice defenders, especially fullbacks, I think that's going to cost Barcelona. The center backs don't want to defend 1v1.